Yo, what's up, Izzy?
Hello, hello, hello.
What's going? All right, we already got all the people already in the house. Got 11 people in the house already. That's nice.
Hello, everyone.
Yo.
Maybe the best icebreaker will be, what's your last season finale?
Oh yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I could answer that one.
Yeah.
Less than 8 hours ago, I was watching one.
Yeah.
So just watching anybody here watch the Rings of Power, or into Lord of the Rings, just had their season finale. It was a lot better season than season 1. I'll say that in my opinion. Definitely still isn't anywhere near, Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson trilogy, but definitely a step up and some good scenes and dialogue. So check it out if you're interested and you like Lord of the Rings. I'll pop it over to Bitbeckers.
Nice. Let's think. I think it was Chaos, the new Netflix series with the Greek gods with Jeff Goldblum. It was good. It was fun. Greek gods are assholes, and so are they. So,
Nice.
Matt, your turn.
Last finale I saw. Okay, I just finished watching season 1, or was it season 2? Well, it's the finale for Fired on Mars, like a dry animated HBO comedy, but like a colony on Mars. It was alright.
Part of Mars was funny.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was into it. Definite change of pace.
Well, I like that type of animation. Yeah.
Right. I cool like that one. What I'll kick that off to you, Co. What was the last finale that you watched?
Honestly, I don't know. Like when I was realizing that I haven't watched TV or stuff, I was like, I need to just chill the fuck out and watch some TV.
Just
can't turn off.
Did you watch Beetlejuice recently?
Yeah, but that was when
It
was
doesn't count, man.
Now I'm going into like, when did Give-a-Palooza start? When was the other quarter? Pass it to Third World.
Nice. Last finale, I can't even remember. I think the last one I can remember is probably last quarter. 2 shows, Beacon 52, I think, and then Power. Beacon 52 is like a sci-fi show about some people that like got stuck in like a space station, and AI is they're dealing with AI and some sci-fi stuff. And then like Power is I don't know if you know about Power, a show by 50 Curtis Jackson about like navigating through New York's crime and corporate scene simultaneously, and a lot of crazy stuff happens. So it's kind of rated R, but I mean mature, but Beacon 52 is pretty cool too. Yeah, that's the last 2 I can remember, but that was a while ago. That was a couple months ago. And then pass it on to Kit, maybe, or I didn't want to pronounce Hulk wrong. That's why I was like, I just skipped the Kit.
That is true.
Hello,
Sorry.
GM.
GM.
Hey there. Looks nice there.
I'm in Thailand.
Yeah, you have a background. So, what are we passing? Like little intros or something?
Oh, your last season finale that you watched of a show.
Oh, the last show. I don't watch TV. Yeah, I don't know. It was probably a replay of a meeting or something.
What is OP season 5 or?
Well, actually, I saw a movie on a plane, which was called Perfect Days by Wim Wenders, and it was excellent. Takes place in Japan, and it's about a guy who cleans toilets. That's his job, but he's really happy. and other people don't understand, but he walks around and he finds beauty everywhere. And well, that was the whole thing. So it was left you in a good mood.
Nice.
Nice.
I think, is that everybody? That's cool. I think that's most people. And if you still want to drop it, you could go ahead in the Q&A section and just drop it in response. Cool. I think we have a quorum. Got 20 people. All right, let's get started. Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining this morning. Or for me, morning. For some of you guys, afternoon. Some of you guys, evening. You still, I could say, but thanks everybody for joining this call and taking part in this workshop. It's going to be, hopefully everybody saw the documentation beforehand in the email. We're basically going to be a 3-part series or flow where we first, the Peckers will go through Hypercerts, just give a quick overview of the new updates. Then we'll do a project mapping activity, which will take some of our projects that we're working on and map out how they could be turned into Hypercerts, basically. And then the last part will be going through the new Hypercerts marketplace and doing a demo of minting a Hypercert. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The Beckers, want to kick things off?
Yeah. Thanks for the introductions, Afo. I'm Bitbackers or Ken, depending on where we are. Doesn't really matter for me. I'll be taking up this first part of the workshop, which means that I will first do a little bit of level setting. So I'll just go like in a relatively high pace over what is the purpose of Hypercerts, how do we build this, and what does it look like today? And then we're going back to AFO to see like how can we work with the Greenfield network and how can we bring all the data and all the actions that you're taking and make them ready for Hypercert so we can tap into this interconnected funding ecosystem. What I'll do is I'll first start with a short presentation. The goal is that you have an understanding of the playing field. So what are the entities involved? How do we see this ecosystem benefiting from all the players in this field? And then how are we building this? So I can get more technical because I built most of it. But that's usually pretty scary, so I'll try not to. But if you feel like you want to know a little bit more or want to go a little bit deeper, just ask or send a message, and then we can see if this just fits. Okay? So we'll first just go over a quick intro of Hypercerts. From what I understood from AFO, Hypercerts is something that a lot of people in the Greenfield network are very interested in. So I'm assuming most of you are familiar with it. But we will get started just with the 101. So I think as part of the Greenfield network, you're familiar with this whole refi, grants giving ecosystem that we're currently living in that's been flourishing on, well, Ethereum or the layer 2s or however you want to say it. But this comes with some challenges, right? So how do we track impact in a verifiable manner in a decentralized world to inform and incentivize funders, right? Because if we all know each other, we have trust assumptions, we have reputation, and that's really easy. But if somebody says from the other side of the world, hey, I'm doing something really cool, can you please fund me? This becomes a lot more difficult. So we cannot just fund everybody that asks for funding. So what we're building is an ecosystem for impact funding networks that positions Hypercerts as the infrastructure for connecting impact creators, evaluators, and funders. So a Hypercert basically declares who did what and when. And this allows people to evaluate if you did what you say you did when you did it. And that should give more security to funders to actually fund the work that you're creating. We're going to quickly look at the challenge of impact funding, and then we're going to look at how we solve them. We start, of course, with the contributors because they are the actual creators of the impact. They invest time and resources in impactful work. This can be building open source software. It can be supporting or actually stewarding local communities. It can be environmental activities like tree planting or beach cleanup. It can be social events. It can be a whole set of things. We as Hypercerts don't say what the work is that you should do to build an Hypercert. This is up to the impact creators to kind of formalize and document what they are doing. Then we have impact funders that are looking for opportunities to allocate grants or funds. They exist, right? This is what layer 2s are doing. This is what the Greenpill network is doing. This is what Gitcoin has been doing from the start. And this is also what already happens in, let's say, the non-online world, because this is what governments do. This is what NGOs do. This is what foundations do. And what we, with Hypercerts, want to bridge is this link. What we want to bridge is this gap between the IRL funders that already exist, that have like these massive funding flows, and also these projects that are using the decentralized tech to actually service themselves and participate in the network in a sort of trustless manner. They can have incentives, like they depend on the open source software that they're using. They can be very altruistic. They can have a personal involvement. They can believe in earn to give. So they were like effective altruists. They can believe in the rising tides to lift all boats. So if my community prospers, then I will prosper as well. Or they are very principled, or whatever. You know, there can be a million different things why people want to fund them, but we should aim to lower the barrier for them to fund as much as possible. So in an ideal world, funders just find you and they go like, yeah, here, shut up and take my money. Unfortunately, that's not the case, right? So I noticed now that we have like a gazillion funding rounds popping up, that there's also a bigger need in the market where people say, oh, but how do we really check? How do we do the check and balances? How do we check the milestones? How do we know what the projects are? I think we had a really big spring of grant opportunities. And I think now we're going to focus a lot on the effectiveness of the grants that we're giving. Spoke before my slide, sorry. Was the funding effective? Are the devs really getting paid? Are they really the developers? What was the impact of their work? And the impact of the work is really difficult. If you think about, like, people say a plant trees, what is the impact of the trees in a year? What is it in 100 years? And what happens when there's a forest fire? Right, all of these things play together in like, what is the impact? And this is a really difficult domain. And honestly, we at Hypercerts don't have the answer. We can only help you surface these answers or document them or report them. Did all the funding go to the intended goals? Right, you know, like milestone-based funding, outcome-based funding. These are things that are also terms that I hear more and more. How were the recipients selected? Like, was there a transparent committee? Were people in a Telegram? Were people in a non-public channel? But also, who's capable of donating the funds? So who are the funders? Like, how do they really signal what are interesting projects? You can build a reputation as a funder, but also as an impact creator, but also as an evaluator of this impact. And this is important when you think about prospective funding, because if you say, we develop this open source software and everybody's using it, please give us money, that's let's say an easier narrative than saying, oh, I have a really good idea. Because you never really know what happened. But if you start taking in reputation or accountability, or you could say, well, I support you because I believe in you, and then they know that I usually have like a very good assessment, so we kind of proxy the reputation, that could also work. But making all of these things, like all of the things that I just covered, insightful or like inspectable, queryable, can you find it? Is it transparent? This is what we are building, right? So we're building the tools for you to track your impact, to evaluate what's happening, and to put this on the marketplace. And then the funders in the same interface can see what you said, what you've done, how people evaluate it, and also like, how do you want to be rewarded for this work, right? Because you can also say like, okay, but I'm expecting some sort of return on the time that I'm investing. So we need an ecosystem that serves this impactful work to willing funders in a transparable and verifiable manner. So this is like the 10,000 foot, 30,000 foot, at least I do miles, kilometers, sorry. At least this is a high overview of what we're building with Hypercerts. And before I dive a little bit more into the how does this compose on a technical level, I wanted to check in if this makes sense for everybody. You can do a thumb up, thumb down, or just ask a question. Okay, thumbs all over. This is great, thank you. Oh, so raise hand.
Sorry, meant to do a thumb.
Oh, okay. No, then we're good. Good. Thank you. So now for the changing themes. So now for a little bit more the more technical parts. How do we see these things playing together? So from the Hypercerts Foundation, which is primarily operated thanks to grants that we receive from parties like Protocol Labs, Octant, OP, Arbitrum, and a few others. We are building the foundation. We are building like the data layer that make it accessible for people that want to build applications or services information. So we maintain the Hypercerts protocol and the Hypercerts marketplace, and we provide tooling to inspect or work with the protocol and the marketplace. So we provide an SDK for you to write with the contract. We provide an API for you to upload the data that you want to reference in your Hypercert. We provide a graph and an API so that you can fetch and explore data. And we provide, let's say, a best practices app. So our application basically does everything that you need to do. And we're working on providing like standard repositories. So you can easily say like, oh, but I have this project and I want to work, I want to use Hypercerts in my project, but I also want to quickly start up an app. And then we just kind of give you all the tools to get started. So somewhere in between tools and use cases, we shift from taking the lead to providing support. Right. So in this case, like the meeting that we have here is also for us really cool because we can support you using our tools by giving you insight on how our stack is composed. So now for the technical bits. How it really works. Again, don't try to understand everything. If you do, that's great. But just try to see how we relate everything together. This is the end state of where we'll get. And I'll show you how contributors, work, evaluators, and Hypercerts are all composed so they incentivize funders to get to the narrative where impact equals profit. I keep moving my mouse. So the contributors, and this is what we're going to do using our app in a minute, is mint Hypercerts that basically track the work that you've been doing as an impact creator. This is done by creating a token in our Hypercert contract. So you're basically creating an impact claim. All the sources, all the code is open source. You can also verify everything on the block scan explorers. You can even roll out your own if you want to, but it also brings a lot of infrastructure there. So basically we say, okay, this is a protocol. You can mint, you can create allow lists, you can split the fractions, you can merge and burn, transfer. You can do a bunch of mutations. The one thing that you cannot change is the metadata. So the data that you store will be immutable. But if you make a mistake at the start, you could simply burn it. Or if you figure out that you need to update the data sets, you can work with attestations to augment the data set to add extra data fields or information. Next, we have our marketplace. So in our marketplace, we allow the impact creators. So we have the same Hypercerts in the middle. We allow the impact creators to say, this is what I did. I want to sell half of my impact or want to raise funds for the next iteration by allowing you to fund the impact that I've created. And you can say, this is the supply that I have, or like, I want to sell 50% of my Hypercert for 1 ETH. Or for 1,000 USDC, or DAI, or wrapped ETH. But wrapped ETH is kind of the same as ETH, practically. This also allows funders to see what is highly valued or low valued impact according to the impact creators. So our marketplace allows you to buy, sell, and bid on Hypercerts according to multiple strategies, but at this moment we support one strategy, which allows you to just sell these fractions in small bits instead of saying, oh, this is my Hypercert, you can buy everything, all the work that's represented in this. This also allows you to bring your Hypercert into any grants flow, because if you think about like how Allo works, Allo is basically a coordination strategy on chain. You could say, I apply for a grant using my Hypercert. They give you the grant, and then the grant funder receives the Hypercert fraction and you receive the funding. VoiceTech is an application that's focusing on funding journalistic impact. They create the Hypercerts and they do like a Kickstarter-like fundraising per impact report. And it says Gitcoin. Oh yeah, I did Gitcoin during Optimism. And for Optimism, I think you can do a similar flow. What's really nice about this is that we currently are getting to a situation where we get like the data silos, right? So ARP, Optimism, Octant, they all have different data silos, but if you tap into Hypercerts, everybody gets access to the same data. But for the funders to know if the impact that you created is really true, we also need to assert or confirm its truthiness. And this is where attestations enter the chat. So I know in one of the Green Pill chapters, you work with gardening and there's attestations from trusted persons, but they can also come from third parties. So for instance, if you look at what OP is currently doing in their grants funding rounds or in the previous grants funding round, is that there were metrics available from Open Source Observer that discuss a certain project, and then attestation is created by somebody else, right? So what we support and like our default mode is that attestations happen on EAS. Because it's EAS, so the Ethereum attestation service, we can support all kinds of schemas, which allows you to evaluate in all kinds of shapes, manners, forms that you find relevant for the impact that you're evaluating or how you want to be evaluated. And this is something that's, again, we want to support good practices and good standards, but we don't have one silver bullet for doing evaluations, and I think we'll never have. So they all compose together, which means that we have contributors that use our app to mint Hypercerts to represent the work that they've created in an impact claim. The impact that they produce is observed by the evaluators. Then the evaluators produce these impact evaluations, which point to a Hypercert. And these impact evaluations, they signal the funders which want to fund these Hypercerts. So this is the, this one is a little bit terrible. This is how the tooling maps to it. I won't give you this headache, but if you want to, you can find a presentation in the, workshop document. Just as a check-in, before I start showing around, like, hey, how does an app look? Where is the documentation? What can you do with it? Am I clear thus far? Does it make sense for everybody? Great, only thumbs. Then we're going to the next bit. I'm just going to show you our app. This gives you a little bit of a framing with all the concepts that I explained. It gives you a framing, how does it really play together? And then we're going to go to the second part. This is a little bit of a live demo. I released this updated front-end application like 2 hours ago. It's our new landing page in our new style. I think if you are used to the Hypercerts org app, when everything is green, everything is now black, white, high contrast star colors. You can find a little bit of information here. You can find the resources. They're very valuable. It gives you also like a nice timeline of where did it start. Here's Holke. Some podcasts that we create, blog posts, announcements, those kind of things, Green Pill. And if you always want to know more, always feel free to reach out to us. But this is like a nice place to get a lot of high value content. We, of course, offer documentation where you can see what are Hypercerts, some information for developers. This is like a work in progress. So I'm still like every couple of days I add like a documentation page and I write a guide. But I also want to be informed by the things that you feel like you're currently missing. So let me know. Also after this workshop, if you feel like, hey, this will be very valuable to have first, then I can prioritize that for you. Docs are docs, but we're going to show you the app. So this is our updated app. We immediately bring you into our explore page. So this explore page basically queries our database and gives, or via our graph, gives you all the Hypercerts that we know. So you see that this means that there are currently more than 4,500, almost 4,600 Hypercerts minted across all production chains. So this app has the cross-chain support. So here you see it's OP, Celo, Base, and ARP. We always strive to mimic our deployments as much as possible. So the marketplace is also on OP. It's on ARP, and I'm going to roll it out on Celo and Base soonish. But the marketplace is also pretty new, so we just want to kind of grow into this. Now, back to the Explore. What you can do is you can Zuzalu. You can search on the name for the Hypercert, and you'll get a list of Zuzalu-related Hypercerts. I think I broke the app. Great. No. So these are Hypercerts that we created with Zuzalu. Holger was at the first iteration, and these Hypercerts have been used for fundraising, all the efforts that have been done in the original Zuzalu city. What's more is that when you scroll over one of these cards, you see where it's been minted, OP mainnet, and that is unverified. What we can do is actually sort on evaluations. Think again from the funder mindset, right? So it's for them, it's really important. Like, I just see thousands of Hypercerts, but which one are maybe interesting to fund? And here you can see that they have been sorted, but this tag needs to be updated. So I clicked onto one of these Hypercerts. You can see this is the name. Here's the description, the time of work. It's here. You have the ID, the creator, where it's minted, the block where it's been minted. Who are the contributors in the contributors list? And who are the owners of fractions of Hypercerts? This basically means that there's a supply of, I cannot do the math like this, let's say more than 10,000 units in a Hypercert, and there are 6 owners that all have a relative ownership. This probably means that one person made a big donation and a few others donated like 0.001 ETH. Then you see the evaluation. So Holke has evaluated this Hypercert to say like, okay, basically this Hypercert has indeed been created by the Zuzalu people. The data that's here, that's correct. I acknowledge the works that are represented here, the properties that are represented here, and the contributors that are represented here. This also allows you, if you are the creator of this Hypercert, to list it for sale. So in my case, and you can see that I own a bunch of fractions. Some I don't, this was me being tired, I think. So I own a bunch of fractions. I created these 9 Hypercerts. And I have 2 claimable fractions, which means that I'm part of an allow list that allows me to claim a fraction of impact that somebody else claimed as a Hypercert. We also have collections in the marketplace. The marketplace we'll get back to after we've done the minting demo and we have time left. Then I will show you how you can put your Hypercerts on the marketplace, and then we want to encourage each other to buy them. What we're going to do for this is not use the mainnet, but we go to testnet.hypercert.org, and basically you get the same application, but all of this is on testnets. So if you start minting Hypercerts with People Network, or if you want to play around these things, please use the testnet application, because it's basically free gas, right? Because you can just get things from a faucet. And if you want to mint during our workshop and you don't have Sepolia funds, I can send you some Sepolia ETH. So don't worry, we got you covered. You can use the testnet application as long as you have a wallet enabled. And here you also see like one example. This voice deck, they are now preparing for the updated release in the next month. So they're doing a few of these test mints, which is actually really funny to see. And you also see that they're trying to play around. They're playing around the marketplace, which means that 100% of this certificate is for sale. And the lowest price per percent, because people can make multiple sales, is $1. I saw the question, there's no more to claim all feature. Holger is giving the answer on it. We might bring it back, but we're going to make it a little bit more refined, because claim all if in my case means that I'll get more than 50 hypercerts from the food network that reuse an allow list. So claim all is a little bit too rude. So we want to make this optional. What I kind of briefly skipped over is the create form, because we're going to get to this after the second bit where we're going to event storm all the data that you want to mint. And lastly, it also points back to our docs. Sorry, full circle again. This is a bad demo effect because this is just here. Not sure what's happening. I'll fix it. Okay, so this was the very quick, very high overview of our application. So you've seen that with this form that I'm now open, you can create your hypercerts. You see that you have evaluations pointing to a hypercert and that you can sort the hypercerts and filter based on those evaluations. And you've seen that there's explore page where you can find hypercerts, but you can also filter on which has been evaluated positively or have had most evaluations, or in what chain are they on, or what domain do they relate to based on like the search functionality. So this is a very good example of how we bring all of these things together, because if you look at one simple hypercert, you have all the information readily available. And all of this information can also be queried via our graph. So we are showing just, this is one way to show everything, but you can also just get all the data and do with it whatever you want. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Are there any questions? I see Koi and Izzy. Koi, go ahead.
I was wondering, the claim, when you claim, you receive, who is the person who is claiming? It is a contributor, or you receive it from a transfer, someone transferred to you?
What you're claiming is from an allow list. So when, I think a good example is what we did with GG19, so Gitcoin Grants Round 19, is that project coordinators, they apply for Gitcoin grant funding, right? So they have a project and they get the donations. The idea for Hypercert, at its roots, is that you either own a fraction because you're the impact creator and you have something that you could put on the market, or you own a fraction because you funded the work because you bought this, or you funded it previously and you bought these fractions. This also introduces the notion that we have a list of contributors and they're all represented, and basically they should be represented by the one that creates a Hypercert. So this means that when you receive funding, you give out a fraction of your Hypercert and in exchange. And it means that I, as a funder, am building up a collection of hypercerts on the work that I did. And in this case, these allow lists that you see, if this will be on the normal app for me to mint, is that I own, you see here, these are all fractions. Some are spam test mints, but these are from Gitcoin grant rounds.
Okay. Thank you, man. I think I got it.
Okay. Izzy, I know you had a question.
Yeah, that was actually the same question you just answered. Like, where exactly? Because I looked at mine and it's just a lot to claim, and I started looking like a pattern that was from like grantees from Gitcoin rounds. Like, so I was literally just asking how, I guess, wallets would get associated with these claims, but you just answered it though, right? Whitelist.
Yeah, and it also makes it very cheap for you, right? So if you want to acknowledge all your funders, you can create an allow list. And an allow list is a really cheap way to represent a really big data set. And then they claim and they pay the gas cost. So you don't need to pay the gas cost if you want to distribute it to 9,000 of your funders. They can claim it for themselves. And I also have the option to not have this in my wallet. Like I said, with all these spammy hypercerts, I don't want them in my wallet. I'm not really keeping track of the chat, so I'll just go through the raised hands. Marcelo Silva.
Yo, thank you.
Yo.
Thank you for the amazing presentation. Just like one question, if I'm willing to use this like internally in my team, is it different from what you shared, like from using with the white public? Like if I want to use Hypercerts to track the contributions of each person of my team, it's the same process, or there is something specific that you want us to know? Or
So I think we're talking with the right audience because it's exactly the purpose of this workshop. I think in the second phase with AFO, we'll start working like, hey, what is really your data? And then in the third part, we go like, okay, but how do we funnel this into an Hypercert? Okay, Cassandra Dad?
Yeah, Kaz. Thanks. Awesome. And I've been following you guys for a while. It's an amazing project.
Thank you.
First, a clarification. You said that there's a whitelist, but there's also an option to not have a whitelist, that you can just claim whatever you want on certain Hypercerts, and other Hypercerts you have an allow list. Is that right?
That's up to the impact creator.
Okay.
So if I would use this form, and we'll get there a little bit later, I can use this form to supply or create an allow list as well. Or if I don't do this, that means that I just get 100% of the fractions that are assigned to this Hypercert, and then I can still split them and send fractions to other users. We've simply seen that most people with groups use allow lists because it's an easy way to group a group.
So the impact creator sets an allow list for their impact, but not for the entire Hypercert? Can you have an allow list for the full Hypercert too? Or?
Yeah, it is for the full Hypercert.
Oh, okay.
So imagine a Hypercert consists of 100 equal parts. Then you could make an allow list, and you could say like, okay, I'm giving 10 to AFO, 10 to Izzy, 10 to Kawe because they funded my previous work, and I would represent them in this allow list. Actually, we prefer 100 million, but for the mental math, just think about 100.
So if I'm running a green pill pod on a continuous basis, how do I think of the Hypercert? Is the Hypercert for the entire duration and eternity, or do I have like a specific Hypercert for a year or for a month or for a chunk of that duration?
That's a very good question, and I think we don't have the answer. So you can imagine if you really work in a cadence or you do seasonal work, it's really easy to think about quarters or a year or a season. If you think about software development, it might be milestone based, right? Because you ship V1 or you ship V2. If you say, and I think this is a more complex question. If you would curate, let's say you have a garden and you would maintain that garden, and then you would say like you have trees and you have plants and you have flowers and things grow and things change over the seasons. Maybe you want to keep adding attestations to that data because you never know what it will be. But also remember that you're using these for fundraising, right? So you're selling off a bit of your Hypercert. So if you have a very low supply, you get stuck, right? So if you make one, let's say you would make one for your backyard for now until infinity, then you really need to start managing your supply because you introduce a scarcity. Does it help or does it make it more confusing?
It's almost like you want a dynamic hierarchy of sorts, right? So you can say that my first level hierarchy is time and my second one is geography, or you flip it around and say my first level of hierarchy is geography and the second one is time, kind of thing. But yeah, I see that's a complex issue for you guys.
Yeah, we obviously have time frames in our metadata, so the question is always would it, when, and when. And we do this exactly also for this reason. So I would recommend using these time frames in between. Yeah.
Just to quickly add to that, in the workshop, that'll be a focus of kind of figuring out within the projects and initiatives that people are working on what the time scope is and when should you be minting a Hypercert on what cadence.
Yeah. Does it answer your question, Cassandra? Because then I would like to give the popcorn to Rohit.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Bitbackers, thanks. It's great to see the marketplace. I had first read the concept in the Hypercerts white paper when it came along, and it's great to see it in action.
Thank you.
I have a two-part question. One is, if a funder buys out a Hypercert, do they have an option to resell it later? And if they do, does the original contribution team, the allow list, get any benefit from the reselling of the hypercert?
Yeah. Very good question. Small disclaimer, Hypercerts aren't for profit or degen activities. If you mint a Hypercert, you can configure transfer restrictions. So that means that if you are the impact creator, you could say, I don't want to allow any transfers. So that means that you're only you're claiming your, you're claiming your impact. You're saying, this is what I did and nobody else did this, right? So this is mine. And maybe I own this open source software or whatever. Maybe you want to use it for some sort of like an IP kind of outcome. And you don't want anybody to sell it and you don't want to use it for fundraising, or you maybe want to say it's now free forever. Next, you could say, I want it to be free for all. So I can sell these fractions and anybody else can sell these fractions. So you're also enabling degen activity, but it could also mean that there's often talk about like hyperactive funding funds. So you would actually say you would fund the funds would fund impactful work, they would aggregate the hypercerts, and then maybe there will be like a kickback mechanic of these fractions to the initial funders. So then you already have 2 transfers. So this is like a case where you maybe want to have more without incentivizing like degen activity, right? It's not about number go up, it's about acknowledging your funders. And lastly, you could say, I only want to allow the transfer from the creator. So that means that you can give an hypercert to your funders and then it ends in their wallet. And that's it. So you acknowledge the contribution that they did, and you prevent them from leveraging that for future profits. By default, we say you only get like 1 transfer, right? So you transfer to your funders and that's it. Also to keep the market clean for now. But using our SDK and other minting flows, you could do whatever you want. Royalties, like Holger said in the chat, we don't actively implement them in the front end. We don't actively use them in the marketplace. Yes, we do have this optionality. But if you look at other marketplaces, royalties have also become a little bit more difficult, because if you need to start backtracking them, A, you can just not use a marketplace. And B, do you also get the funds where they should be? And how do you keep track of these changes over the future? And I think this kind of alludes to the complexity. So for now, this is just it.
Yeah, and maybe to add one thing, by default, from like what Bitbecker meant with like by default, it's basically just 1 transfer that is allowed, basically from the creator to someone else. That is kind of the only option right now in our front end. So with that, we also create basically like we have a market, but we don't have a secondary market. There's also legal reasons to do it this way for now. And if you want to create hypercerts that are transferable, then projects should also be aware of like kind of the legal implications of that if they create a hypercert that is transferable, because then it also depends on some features of, is that work that's in the future or is that work of the past? And so that's a little bit more complicated. So in order to not facilitate anything where projects don't know exactly what they're doing, we have the hypercerts that created on hypercerts.org without a secondary market for now.
Got it.
Which
awesome.
might change it might change in the future when we have but then we want to release it with like a very clear guideline of this is how you can use it with secondary markets.
What about transfers that are time limited to 12 months, for example, which is often the case in carbon credit markets, where you want to create a sense of scarcity, like you have to buy it within the current year, and if you don't, then you fail, then you have to pay a fee.
Yeah, I think it's very it's an interesting feature of those markets where you can actually play around with a lot of those incentive designs, and this is a transfer restriction that we haven't implemented, so a time restricted transfer restriction, but it's totally possible to also add that to the restriction strategies.
Thank you. If this wraps up the last of the raised hands and questions, I think it's time to give it back to Afel.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great presentation, Beckers. That was nice. All right, guys. So next we're going to dive into a Miro board activity where we're going to basically take our projects that we're working on within our chapters and within our communities and kind of determine the different actions that create that project within the life cycle. And from those actions, follow those up into minting a hypercert. This ties into some other technical aspects such as attestations, but that's not important for this call. What's important is to learn more about our projects and to also come up with a common framework to share as a Greenfield community. So let me share my screen real quick. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but here, these are the core goals. Like there's like 4 core goals of this workshop. We just touched upon I guess the hypercerts is the last one we just touched upon. But the top 3 at the beginning are learning about chapters, projects, and how impact is captured. Learn what project data and assets are currently on chain. So learning like from what project actions you do, what are you capturing on chain? When you have a meeting, an event, are you minting a POAP? What things are you doing that are being captured on chain? And then thirdly is to lay the foundations for a Greenfield impact framework. And that's just the kind of level set to have a common framework and structure that we use as a community that we can all build upon in the similar types of impact that we're all doing, so that we're not capturing it all in different ways. That makes it harder for evaluators to evaluate, right? So it's more, by us doing this, it makes it more easier for evaluators, which makes it more likely to get funders to then fund the work that we're doing. So this cohesiveness is very important. So just going down a little bit to where we're at. So let me start the Miro board activity. Okay, load in. So I don't know if you're not familiar with Miro, if you take a look at this doc, which is pinned in the chat, there's a tutorial about how to use Miro. So you could quickly look through that to familiarize yourself with the platform. And I'm going to start a Google activity where you can embed a Miro board. So hopefully everybody's on desktop or the laptop. If not, do not worry, because I will be sharing my screen so you can follow along. Just know that on your phone, you won't be able to partake in the voting on the app. But what we can do is you could send your vote via the Google Meet. So, and just to, okay, so you guys still see my screen, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is going to be a 4-part workshop activity where first you will select a project. So select one of the projects you're working on within your chapter, etc. Second is you'll then map actions that relate to that project, such as the different activities and milestones within the life cycle of that project or application. And then third, you'll go into tagging these actions. So you'll tag these actions based on different things such as capital, such as is it on-chain or off-chain, and whatever tags you want to create, whatever things you want to use to contextualize and connect things, feel free to create any tags you want. And then we'll vote on a few projects to explore more in depth and go through a minting process, which Bitbackers will come back into the fold. So yeah, let's get started. Let me stop sharing this and share this. Okay, now you guys should be seeing me sharing the Miro board. Does everybody see that? Awesome. Okay, cool. So first, let's get everybody on the Miro board and get everything set for people. Okay. All right, so far we got 9 people on the board. So yeah, so let's familiarize yourself with the, look around, add some sticky notes, play around with things. Just if you haven't used Miro, just to before we start, read some of the text, and I'll walk through this, of course, before we start the timer and kick things off. But just take some time to just get familiar with the platform if it's new for you. We've been using this in a lot of workshops for the past few months, so I think a lot of people are more familiar at this point. Okay, and if you still have any issues, send a message in the chat. Matt will support you. You can even DM, send a message on Telegram or something if you're trying to figure things out. Just go ahead and start explaining a little bit more what I just did explain, but just get some more context. So to help with creating these, here are some examples to follow. So I created these examples based on projects within the guild. So the first one's this detailing a workshop. It's actually kind of based on this workshop we're doing here. So outlining the workshop as an initiative or project, and then the different things that make up the project, and putting different tags using the different capitals. So you could feel free to copy these to use them as a starting template. So I have to start from scratch and just replace the name. Probably the workshop example would be the best one to copy because you'll just be doing probably your chapter. And yeah, and then we also have another one that shows green goods, which a lot of people are familiar with on this call. This is a project we're working on within the guild and a partnership with Green for Brazil. And within that has a couple more actions, not that many more, but I guess just one more. But there too, you can see the different capitals and different tags and what's on chain, what's off chain, etc. So what you're gonna want to do is, and actually I should be using, my bad, I was on the other screen. So these are this is an example here, right? You can see Greenfield Dev Guild, Brazil, you can see some tags, right? Material, financial, these are different capitals. You can see then if he's into green goods, and then you can see the different things, garden work, workshops, garden assessment, etc. And the idea here is to like contextualize within the life cycle. So for green goods, to give more context, right? It's very seasonal based, to where you start the season with this baseline assessment of a garden and what the goals are to either like remove invasive species or register plants. And then throughout that quarter or season, you work on those things, doing workshops where you do the work and then you approve the work. And then at the end, you have a garden report. And then the idea would be to then contextualize that and wrap that up within a hypercert, which captures the different contributors within that time and period who helped do that work. So who did that work. So yeah, so let's go ahead and take the next thing to level set is, so first start here. So we're actually I'm going to let's first walk through this real quick. So you'll start by adding a chapter. Then you'll pick one project. So just pick one project from the chapter. And then you'll connect it to actions. So you can just go ahead and copy these sticky notes, these different colors to color code things. And we're gonna go ahead and start. So I'm gonna start the timer. We have 20 minutes to map things out. So let's get started. And if you have any questions, just
You just want to say very good choice.
For the music?
Yes.
I can read your mind, Chloe. We just passed the halfway point. How are people feeling? Any questions, thoughts? Almost done. Already done. All right. Time up. Time's up, everybody. Cool. It looks like everybody's got the frames figured out. Let's see. New York. I'm gonna put a frame on yours. Put the frame up. And then get a label these. Cool. Everybody good? No issues? Able to figure everything out? Seems like it. Yeah, I got you. If anybody needs help with some arrows, I could come do that. There you go. Got that framed up. Nice. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start dragging these boards around. So I will ask to stop editing so that don't cause any issues, and I could easily drag these boards around together. So we have Toronto, Brazil. Given the time, I think Toronto might be the good one because it's well, we're just gonna do one project, so we're not even doing all projects.
Absolutely fine to do Toronto. I just tell you that I'm on an iPhone, so I'm limited in what I can do. But if you want to do it, go right ahead.
Okay, maybe Corey. Actually, Corey, let's go with you, Brazil.
Hey, yes, man. Let's choose maybe just one project.
All right, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Do you want to vote? People want to maybe give feedbacks too, or any comment? I think it would be valuable. Yes, I think the community is the most like active. The climate action we are doing, like we're gonna start to use the Atlantis app, Impact Miner, so we will have more data for that. But for now, I think community is the most developed.
Okay. All right. Cool. So next step, what we're going to do is take this community project and the actions that Corey mapped to it and mint that in a Hypercert. We're going to abstract away some of the technical aspects of what does it actually look like, because ideally, as we build this infrastructure, these actions are attestations that then get bundled into a Hypercert. But just for the sake of showing abstraction, we're just going to put all these actions in the description. But yeah, let me hand it over to Bitbeckers to take over the lead for this last part of the call.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, we're gonna do two things. So we're gonna mint Hypercerts, but first I'm gonna just show you like how I think you can think about like your project, the actions, and how to put it in a Hypercert. So I just made some crude screenshots from our app, and we're just gonna do like a very basic mapping exercise. So you're saying with the Greenfield Network Brazil, you have a project that's community, and you have this group of this cluster of actions. So what I would do is more arrows. Look here at the title, and then the title will be something like Greenfield Network Brazil community. And because you're talking about ops, events, workshop, and some fundraising, these are all very like clearly bound in time, right? You did some efforts in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, or 2024. So you could say like this. Greenfield Community 2024. Next, you have a description. For the description, you can think about two things. You can just put in text, or you can put in markdown. When we detect markdown in description, we will render it as a markdown. So you get like these nice headers and those kind of things all work very nicely. But maybe you have like an impact report that you simply link to, so you don't feel like you need to add the description. As you see, I just usually hit my keyboard 50 times, and that's my description. This link would be additional information that you want to be able to find via Hypercerts. I wanna say we will probably add like these. We will add these attestations that allow you to update what you're claiming in your Hypercert or provide additional data. But this will be like a very good place to start, right? So if you have like an impact report or something, so for instance, voice like impact reports, you will link that here. But you could also say, oh, I'm gonna link to our website where you can find everything. But remember that this data cannot be changed. Right, so if you link to your website needs to be there and it needs to stay there, and the link shouldn't change. Then for the logo is this little round icon that you see here to the left.
Bitbackers, I have a maybe this link. Do you think it makes sense to? Right now, we can use just a Google Docs. We made a report about our last activities, so would be just a text, like an article. We were thinking to share, but we could have a IPFS doc or something like that, like to guarantee this data is storage and access.
Yeah,
it can be open anytime.
Yeah, IPFS really has trade-offs, right? It's really good that it's like unique and it's findable, but you need to make sure that it stays there.
So a Google Doc would work.
It's good, but it needs to stay there as well. So I'm just trying to point out like the permanence of this data set, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be changed, right? So maybe it's just fine for you to have like an IPFS or just no link, and then think again when we add these attestations where you can update that data field, or say like, oh, but this is like our new homepage, then you would just update that. But for now, this is where we expect it to be. The benefit of IPFS is that if it's gone, you can put it back. If you lose your domain name, you cannot get it back. Skipping over a few things here. But it's reproducible. Let me say it like this.
Okay.
The logo is a tiny image here. You see that I'm basically using the same image and it becomes like really small. I would expect for you a Greenpil logo is very nice here. And maybe you have like a nice banner image of your community or the efforts that you did like in 2024. And it makes it really feel, it distinguishes your Hypercert. You see here, like minted test gets mapped here. And then we get to like the scope. So now we get to the would, what, and when. The would and what and when, there's more metadata, but we keep it simple in this interface. So here there's time of work from to, there's a work scope. So you could say Greenpil Network Brazil, or you could say community or workshops or more. We'll get to that in a bit. And then you have your contributors. The contributors are all the people that contributed to creating the impact, right? So an interesting question is like a workshop. If you give a workshop, that you create the impact, or is the impact created by the people that have take-home messages from the workshop and do something else with that? I would say, but I'm not the authority here, I would say that the creator of the workshop is the impact creator, or the hosts, and the facilitators are the impact creators. And all the people that participate in the workshop should attest that it happened, that they participated, and that it was awesome. Yeah,
it's a good thing. Good idea.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to make a thumbs up emoji, but I clicked the hand thing.
Okay, I'll do the thumbs up for you. And what I heard from Afro is also like a similar concept. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Koi.
Could you just maybe on tags just clarify again, please?
Yeah, tags. The tags are completely arbitrary. So tags allow you to find, sort, or basically arranged hypercerts because they have certain tags, right? So you could find everything that has like climate, or maybe everything that has green pill network in the tags. Technically, anybody can create the same tags, so that doesn't make them true. So now you get back to the same problem. If you have an evaluator that says, yes, this is really one from green pill network because it's AFO saying yes, then it becomes more true, right? But if AFO thinks, oh, but there's like a really good incentive for me to contest that this is true or say that this is true, then you probably want Izzy to also say, yes, this is true. And if Izzy and AFO Izzy and AFO disagree, now you have a problem to solve.
Oh, disagree. I guess you're saying on that one.
So these tags, maybe it's interesting to have the same tags for all the chapters. Basically, maybe we could we need to coordinate with the chapters, like Rodrigo said on the chat.
Yeah.
Yes.
One comment on the tags. So in general, the idea would be that they are kind of conjunctive clauses, which basically means you would just like specify it further and further down what the work really was. So for example, everybody could have green pill network, and then the next one would always be your chapter, and then the next one would be potentially like the activity. And then if you want to specify it even more, like the activity could be like whatever, like workshop, and then the theme of the workshop, and that would like specify it further and further down, that you have kind of a hierarchy that you can implement. And then somebody else has like also a workshop, but in a different chapter, then you can kind of agree on how you want to like do that. So it would be kind of the same way you specify the work, and that way the work should be clearly identifiable. So that's what the work scope is really meant for. But I also realize that the way we are thinking about it is not as like the normal text that you are used to, that is just like random words together that describe it. Think of it more as like you go from the highest tag that you can apply and specify it further and further down. And we might actually like at some point create a different UI for that to make that
community
more clear.
This could be community, basically, like is the most broad category, I think. This is Hypercert is for community, but do you think we need to put the tags too, or something like community building?
I think
Just
community building would be more specific, so I think it makes sense.
Yeah, would be GPN Brazil, and community building. Very simple.
Yeah, and then you specify who did it and in what time frame, and then you know this hypercert represents all the activities of these contributors in that time frame that relates to community building in that chapter. So that's kind of how we would phrase it then. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, maybe because I want to be cautious of everybody's time, so I'm gonna run through a few things. If it's really important to get in between, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I have time for Q&A afterwards, but I want to make sure that everybody gets the same info before we hit the hour. So what you're currently missing here is that all the actions that are described here are nowhere represented in this hypercert, right? Because we only said, oh, we're going to use the text, we're going to use the work scope, we're going to declare the contributors, we're going to give a title, we're going to give a nice image, but we didn't say what are the operations, or we didn't even list these 5 titles, right? So there are 2 things that you could do to approach this, or to solve for this. You can create this impact report that basically describes everything that you're doing, or have a different way to make that findable, and you can add it as a link. Second thing you could do, 3 things. Second thing you can do is list this in the description. We maxed out the description to 5,000 characters. So that's quite some text, but it might not be enough if you do a lot of these events over all these quarters. But what I know that you're interested in doing with the Greenfield network is using attestations. And then it becomes really interesting, because if you track these events in attestations, that also means that we can simply point to all of these events in the attestations, right? So under the hood, these hypercerts have a field that's called properties. And these properties are our escape to provide custom data for different ecosystems. And this is also why we don't have a given heuristic on tags, because the tags might be very relevant to you, and it might be relevant to people in your domain, but they might be overlapping or conflicting with different groups or domains, right? So if you also think about these properties, then you know that if you tag hypercerts that are Greenpill network and community stewarding, then you also know you can expect attestations in the properties field. So we will put like an array of all these IDs there, which means that if somebody fetches all the data from the hypercerts, they get a list of all your attestations, and they can use EAS to find everything again. And this brings you back to the application level, because then maybe like AFO and I, or the dev guild, could build like an app that specifically surfaces attestations that are important for your hypercerts. So that makes it very important for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, basically, we could have our own team attesting. Creating this flow would be like the final point, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So the question is, and I think this is like a takeaway for all of us from this workshop, is that we're going to figure out how we're going to map the data. We can use we provide our IPFS instance for uploading metadata. And what I want to try to do is really quickly show you the minting flow, because there's also like this little nugget of allow lists in there. And that also shows you like, how do you declare who can claim a fraction of these hypercerts. So I need to share my screen again. Yeah. 1 minute. Okay. So we have, and this is why you need attestations, because I can write the same information. Greenpill network, Brazil, community.
Brazil. Greenpill Brazil, Brazil network.
Oh, sorry. Greenpill Brazil. We did a lot of some work, and live demo of the Markdown. This is the title. Then this is my default testing image. So if you ever see it, you know it was me. Next, you can say what was the time frame, right? So you can say if this was, what did I say, 2024?
Yes,
going to start with
I
now.
think it makes sense. Yes.
And then we said community building.
I think,
or just community could be too.
Yeah, I do think community is equivalent to communication.
Oh, okay.
So it's like everybody, you always have some sort of community, right? So what are you doing with it? Yeah,
definitely.
Let's say community building and education, just for the sake of this. Now, AFO, Koi, Volker, Izzy, they will all be declared in the demo, will all be declared in the contributor list. Then what I'm saying, remember, right? I'm now making this hypercert, and I'm declaring that I represent this group of contributors. So I can handle funds for them. I can represent this impact, and I can make these mutations. When I create an allow list, this is who can claim a fraction. So we're gonna this is me. Random address, sort of. Me again.
ENS,
and I can, yeah.
On this section, could we use ENS?
No, not at the moment. No, sorry. There's a difficult thing with ENS, because ENS works on mainnet, right? Because if your ENS is connected to a safe, it might be connected to a different safe account on a different chain. This is a complex problem. future work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you now see the allow list, we basically say there's 100% to distribute. We give 90% to me because I'm awesome, and give 10% to my other account because I'm colluding. Right? So we create the allow list. What now happens is the allow list is being created and it's being uploaded on IPFS, and we fetch the CID. So we fetch the identifier and add it to the metadata, which means it's now part of the metadata and part of this hypercert. Then next, and lastly, terms and conditions, or you all read them, and then we mint. So what's now happening is that the full metadata, including the allow list, is being uploaded on IPFS via our API. So it's also being validated that it has the correct data model, structure, and fields. Now it's creating a minting request for me to sign in my wallet, but I think that's always blocked. Thank you, MetaMask. So I'm confirming, and now it says we wait, which is fair. We wait. It waits for 3 blocks, but our indexer on testnet is a little bit slower because it's cheaper to have it slower, and it's testnet. And when it's found the block confirmations, and hopefully I can keep talking long enough to get it to this state without getting out of breath.
One question.
It's a long one. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question about because so like whoever creates the hypercert has like the control of like kind of fractions and stuff, right? Would there be in the future a way to kind of have that be more controlled and a more governed by like a multi-sig or some aspect where I guess I'm just curious about that aspect because it really just because one person, does seem like it could be
this is a very good question. What this will mean is that you could change the ownership of the hypercert. This is not how we started building it, and we're still using the initial iteration of the protocol. It's a feature that could be added. We never got this question or the need. Doesn't say it's not valid. My cheap shot would be if you would start with a safe or you would start with a token-bound account. You can always change these things. But for most people, honestly, that's too complex still at this moment. It's not intuitive.
I think currently, as a use case, there's more complexity.
Just to add, like you can just like if you represent an organization, then it probably makes sense to mint it from a multi-sig in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah. So moment supreme, cue the hypercerts. Yeah. So this is all the data again from our indexer. You can see the image, you can see the title, the time of work that we declared, the contributor list. So you always have a list of the people that contributed. Fractions have not been indexed yet. So this is probably why this is oh no.
It's actually
this is because I'm sorry. Yeah. This is because it's an allow list. So I only created the hypercerts, the claim, but I didn't create a fraction because all of the people in the allow list get a fraction. Did I add my address? Yes, which means that if I look at claimable, and let's refresh to be sure. There's my claim, and now I can claim this fraction. So this is the distribution. Oh my god, I'm out of Sepolia ETH. This is a while. Okay, I cannot claim, but it works. Trust.
I have something. I have something here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Throw your wallet here, please. Throw your wallet on the chat. I will send you so you can.
No. I'm swimming in Sepolia ETH. It's just a different wallet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but thank you. Very nice. So maybe this is also a nice place to end the demo, right? A little bit on a fail, but you've seen that everything works. You can do the minting. You create an allow list. The data is being fetched. So you can claim it from the recipients can claim their fractions. Kit, you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question about the images. I worked with Hypercerts back in the Gitcoin beta round, and we were concerned about how it looked, and so we spent a lot of time changing images, which was rather awkward because it was on IPFS. And I see that today it's the image can be anywhere, and so I'm wondering what happens with the image. Do you store a copy immutably on IPFS, or does it stay the image that was referenced when you created the Hypercert?
Good question. We basically fetch your image, we parse it, we build this card image, and that's what we attach to the metadata.
Okay. So the image is immutable, and once it's published, it's not going to disappear or change someday, right?
No, unless it's disappears from IPFS, like the metadata disappears. But that's our, so we have a few redundancies. So I think 3 systems should fail when until we lose our metadata.
Okay, that's great. I'm really glad to hear that. There's a lot of NFTs out there with images that don't exist anymore, but
Yes.
here it's not a problem. Thanks.
No, it is also, we're part of the Protocol Labs family. And this is, of course, they use IPFS, but this is the benefit of IPFS, right? I recently talked with some NFT artists, and they actually run their own nodes to maintain the data, or to make sure that the people that buy the NFTs can always fetch their data.
Yeah, it certainly makes it much more user-friendly that you can use any image on the internet now, as opposed to having to, upload and pin something on IPFS.
Yeah. Honestly, I think there might have been a communication gap there, because it shouldn't have been needed.
Yeah, it was possible with any image before. We only suggested to use IPFS, but it was more an example. I think it was possible before as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I know we are past our time, so I want to ask if anybody else has any questions. Otherwise, feel free to jump. Feel free to jump into our Discord, jump into our Telegram, shoot us messages. You can find us via AFO, and there are also a lot of links added to the Charmverse page for this workshop.
There is something maybe we could finish with that. The marketplace, I don't know if we already dive into this. Maybe I think it's a good way to end up.
Yeah. Okay, I can do that. If people feel like they need to go, feel free to do so. But I can show you how this works. So, the marketplace. This is our new feature. What we did is we forked the LuxWare protocol and made it so that it works with Hypercerts, because we have a little bit atypical NFTs. Do I own this one? Yeah, I created it, and then I need to be on base. Oh no, I burned this one. I did the same this afternoon. Okay, let me just find you a Hypercert that I can sell. It's a fraction that I own. I shouldn't have burned it yet. So this one, for example, this one has 10,000 units. So now we're getting a little bit under the hood of the Hypercert protocol, because one Hypercert contains X amount of units, which are distributed by marketplace mechanics or allow lists. In this case, I minted an old Hypercerts, see, 2023, with 10,000 units, which means that 100% of this Hypercert is owned by me, and I want to sell half of it, and I want to use it for fundraising, because look at this guy. I need to be on Sepolia. And you maybe see here in the background that the list for sale gets enabled. So now I want to list this for sale. And now we really have a little bit of a look under the hood. So I'm saying I'm going to sell this 100% of this for 0.0001 ETH. But actually, that's not what I want. I want to have 1 ETH. So that means that I'm offering 10,000 units, which is 100% of the Hypercert, for 1 ETH. I can say that I want this sale to end now or the end of next week. And I could also say like, hey, I don't want to sell it completely. I only want to sell 50%. And here we do the live calculation because it's really difficult to do this mental math. But this is just something that we have on chain. A lot of numbers, big numbers. I can even say, hey, how big do I want the order to be? Or how big do I want, how small or how big? In this case, I want to be able to sell it all in one sale, but I can also do 5,000 tiny sales. These are like the advanced settings, but I just wanted to show you like you can sell half, 50% by just saying I'm offering 5,000. Then I create a listing. It asks for your confirmation, and then you need to sign a message. So my wallet has already approved the transfer manager and the Hypercerts contract on the marketplace. I sign the message that defines the order, and then the signed message is stored in our database. So you don't pay any gas for creating marketplace orders. This is something that the buyer needs to do. So what the buyer does is, let's see, view my listings. Is it already there? No, it needs to be fetched. I'm sorry, I think it's out of sync. Too bad.
Is it on the other page? Because I think you can click previous on your marketplace listings.
It's here, at least. Marketplace. Oh. Previous next.
That's what I meant.
No. Okay. We found a bug. Thanks, guys. Back to the page. You will see the listing here. And this means that you can buy half of this Hypercert now for the given ask price. What you also see is that we list a USD and token price using Chainlink price feeds, so decentralized Oracle network. You can see that the price will be, there's something weird with the refreshing here. The price per percent is 0.02 ETH. If you scale it up, you get back to the 1 ETH per unit, or for the whole 50%. And if I would have a different wallet available with Sepolia, I could actually buy it. Let's see. Demo. Oh! Nice. Connect. See, this is my demo account. It has some ETH. Now I say I want to buy this 50%. Oh, I don't have 1 ETH. Okay, I want to buy. I should have this. Does it have this? Yeah. So I want to buy 2% or 200 units of this fraction. The price is this per ETH, and I sign execute. What now happens is that I get the app gets the marketplace order, and you say I want to accept this order for these amount of units for this price, and you sign the transaction, which is being submitted on chain. It's then verified and handled by a protocol, so it says yes, it is a valid marketplace ask, yes, it's a valid marketplace take or bid. Bid, I think is the correct word. I'm sending the currency along, and now the transaction is being executed. That means that, of course, the currency is exchanged against a fraction, and our indexer will pick this up. You will see that you had a successful sale. You can also inspect the transaction here. So it's all pretty transparent. Here you also see the signed messages encoded for the nerds among us. And I can now view the Hypercert, and it has 2 owners. And I bought these 200 units just now. So sorry for the janky refresh issue. I will look into this, but it worked.
Amazing, man. Thanks a lot. Was a very good workshop. I think clarified a lot, and also I'm done. I'm ready to mint basically. I think I will mint just after our call.
Are you muted?
I said, nice, but first on testnet.
Yes, will be on the link you sent to me. Testnet.hypercerts.org if anyone wants to try. And I can send some if on ARP Sepolia if someone wants to test. Just reach me. Afo sent to me. I don't know if it's enough, but we can do.
How do we put these in all the same family called the green pill family?
With the tags, currently the tags would seem our best approach to that, probably.
Which
and
is
the titles, I think.
which is open to anyone to use then, I guess.
So there are two things coming. One is collections and hyperboards. So collections is that you can just create a collection where somebody can just say like, okay, these are all the hypercerts from a specific chapter. And then you can also say, okay, these are all hypercerts from Greenpill in no matter what chapter, so that somebody can actually curate them. That's just like the collection feature where we can also build up a hyperboard where over all the hypercerts that we are in a collection, you can actually see who are the owners of those hypercerts to give kind of credit to those who really contributed or funded this impact. And then the second one is that if you have those collections, we can also just have a dedicated page where only these collection or the hypercerts from this collection are then displayed. So this is not yet there, but it's something that is not too complicated to add. And I think for your use case, and I think others will have a similar use case, this makes a lot of sense that you can just say, okay, I just want to have one page where this collection is displayed.
It'd be good if you had two different approaches to it. One is the after the fact or before the fact. So after the fact being a lot of hypercerts were minted and now we're going to put them into a collection. And the before the fact would be you create the collection and then you whitelist who can create within that collection. The strength of that would be that now you can curate which images to use, which tags to use, and create a little bit more of a structure and order.
Yes, I think I fully agree. The latter thing would be a little bit more work on the implementation side, but the logic definitely makes sense. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, maybe where to take this away from here is really nice. Everybody's really enthusiastic about minting these hypercerts and structuring this data. I'd be happy to maybe review some or do a spot check, hey, this will work and this will persist and this makes a lot of sense. Maybe after you've all set these things up, Afro could reach out and we can do that. Second is, I think using these collections, it could be for your chapters very valuable, but also for the Greenpill network, because you can, of course, make collections for the chapters. And then in a bigger one, you can make one for the network to really show hey, what are we doing as a network? But these are things that we can figure out. And I would love to stay in close collaboration with you all to figure these things out, because I think we're all thinking in the same direction. And lastly is evaluators. And we haven't touched upon this yet. And I know Afo might kill me when I say so. But we have a notion of trusted evaluators. These are people from organizations that we trust that you can evaluate to hypercerts that we will surface in our application. It also means that it probably doesn't make sense if somebody from the Greenpill network is evaluating something from Bloom network, then maybe that's an evaluation that you want to double click on. But it also means that for your hypercerts that you're going to be minting that are in these collections, we can help you surface the positive evaluations towards them. So that also makes them easier findable in our app for, let's see, maybe funding purposes, or that will be the next step. But basically, closely collaborating together, getting you to the state with good hypercerts that are easily findable and have positive evaluations from people that we know, trust, and love. 2 thumbs and fireworks.
Because I have the background on.
Yeah, you need this. Yeah, so I have a mouse hand, so I cannot really do this. You see?
That's crazy. Okay, all right. No background on. No fireworks. Cool. Yeah, actually, got some things to close on, some next steps, and could end things there and hop to the community call. So let me share my screen.
Wait, is this community call now?
Oh no, this is like we could hop to the community call after.
Okay.
Just close with this some action items. All right, you guys can see my screen, right? So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. And of course, just want to highlight some action items, mainly from a guild level. How we're going to be doing things after this workshop to help support the community and using Hypercerts. So we're going to be focused on helping projects translate these actions that were captured in the workshop into attestations, as well as assisting chapters in minting Hypercerts. So if you're, now want to submit your Hypercert and want to make sure you're doing it right, or need some support, we will be there for you. And then also, continue collaborating with the Hypercerts team to grow and improve the protocol. So we'd love to do more workshops, maybe one more. Given how this what happened in this workshop, maybe one where we could kind of do that again with some more chapters and some more people. And then some just tips for chapters. If you're a chapter steward and you have your projects, start looking to bring actions on chain and have some more things that you could use as inputs for attestations and for different actions in your Hypercert. Capture impact in the consistent structure and cadence. So start having finding a structure, using a database in Charmverse, or just having a way how you capture your different actions over time. And then reach out for the guild if you need support with Hypercert minting or creating attestations. Thank you guys for joining the call, and we'll end the recording.
Thanks for the workshop. It was great.
Thank you very much, Bitbackers. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you all as well for your time, attention, and input. There was really a nice workshop. I really enjoyed it. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And see you guys in the community.
Thanks,
call.
guys.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.
Okay. All right. See you guys in the community. Call.